Welcome to Collograph Printing channel. Today's video is going to be about experimenting with this hybrid print. I'm going to show you how I created a mixture of Monoprint and Collograph to achieve this effect. Hope you enjoy the video. So in today's video, I'm going to show you my creative process to come up with the concept of my design. This was inspired by some scenes from Peak District, and this is my interpretation, more sort of an abstract interpretation of the landscape. I'm going to show you how I achieved the design from the original image, but also really this is more about trying to get the monoprint part of the print right. The Collograph was quite straightforward. It was just a simple plate which printed all the dark areas of this design, and the monoprint took care of all the colors. So I want to show you how I achieved that, how I made sure that everything's in the right place. Here's the actual Collograph plate that I used. And as you can see, it's got all the dark areas, and the reason why you can see a bit of color here because it hasn't been washed properly. But really the Collograph plate is there just for the dark ink. So I wanted to see if I can achieve a good monoprint just by using Intaglio inks. And what I did is I did 3 different runs, and I videoed 2 of them just to see how it would work out. And what I found is just by using pure Intaglio ink, the ink was too sticky and I couldn't really spread it out. I used a brush to paint it onto the plate, as you will see, but it was too sticky. So what I did is I used a bit of linseed oil from Hawthorne Print, and just a little bit, just a drop, to loosen that ink up a little bit so I could paint it on. And what I wanted to find out is, should I print it on just with the painted ink on top of the plate, on top of my Perspex plate? Should I just paint it on, and should I just run it through the press on slightly lighter settings, not too tight like I would on a Collograph? Would that work? Or should I first of all just put a bit of newsprint on it, take off that first layer, top layer of print, and to then run it off the press at a normal tight Collograph type of intaglio setting? So it was a bit of experimentation. And just to show you the difference, the first print, I think, which was probably my favorite, which is a proof print, you can see this grey areas where my grey ink, where I didn't really loosen it up. When I first started brushing it on, it was a bit too sticky and it stuck quite hard to the plate, and it sort of created, it doesn't bother me too much, but it's just probably a bit of a blob there that shouldn't be there. And what's great, so this first print I achieved by putting a newsprint on top of my monoprint plate, painted monoprint plate, just to take off that layer of ink, and then run it through the press. And I think the colors are a little bit more transparent and a little bit lighter, and I love how the sort of areas of the Collograph print are coming through nicely, and so it's not too blotchy. So compare that to the second run, which, as you can see, these areas are a bit darker. So if you compare both, there's a bit more ink in the second one, and so the sort of transparency has been lost a little bit. And the third one, also there was a problem here, some of the ink ran, so I put quite a lot of linseed oil into the ink, and as a result it got a bit smudged and a bit dirty, and then that was probably partly the reason why I didn't take off, because I didn't put the newsprint on top of the inked up monoprint plate to take a little bit of ink off, as well as maybe the press was a little bit too tight when I ran it through. So that was a really good experiment, just to gauge what needs to be done in order to get the monoprint just right. And a third run was, so I used, again, I didn't clean off the ink. I didn't put the newsprint on top of my monoprint plate, so I left, so there's more ink on there. I didn't take off that top layer. So as you can see, there's some interesting monoprint brush marks, which I quite like. But again, I think there's just too much ink in there. The green has come out really well. I do really like that. But again, the transparency of the first one is probably a bit more interesting, I would say. So that was a very, very interesting conclusion, I would say, from the whole experiment. And so what I would say is putting the newsprint and blotting a little bit of ink off on a monoprint is probably a good idea, unless you want more pure colors. If you want more transparency, I would probably do that, what I did with my very first run. Yeah, that's probably what I would say would be my main conclusion from this experiment. But it's great fun to do hybrid printing, and I specifically enjoy monoprint with Collograph at the moment, because your possibilities can be endless, and you can just do 2 plates with lots of different pure colors, and this is what really attracts me to this technique. And one more thing I'd like to add is to achieve the very large dark areas, I had to use Carborandum, and I just painted the area with wood glue, which I use EvoStick DIY wood glue, and I bought some Carborandum from Intaglio Printmakers, Carborundum Grit, fine grit, which is excellent at trapping ink and getting a very dark area on your print. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the video. If you have any experience with monoprinting or with this type of hybrid technique and would like to share them, please feel free to make comments on my video. And if there's any videos you would like to see me make, I'd love your feedback. I'm always up for trying new things. In my next video, I think it's been a plan in a while, but I got distracted by other things. I would love to do a heavily chincolate Collograph soon. So this is the plan for the next video. So if you're interested in seeing that, watch this space. So this is the original image that I took on a beautiful walk in Peak District. I just loved the shapes and the contrasts, and it just really spoke to me. So in more of an abstract sort of image kind of way, so I wanted to interpret it and create a print, my own print. So using Procreate, which is a fantastic tool for, in my opinion, for just experimenting, because you can work in layers without damaging your original image. I did a lot of experimenting and build up some colors and some shapes, and then thought about sort of the 2 layers. So I thought this will be my Collograph layer, and this would be my monoprint layer. So I very much limited my color palette just to 5 different colors, and this was the plan. So this was my monoprint plate plan, and this was my Collograph plan. So here's my printed image, and I'm just tracing here the design onto my Collograph plate. And now it's time to cut out all the darkest areas of my Collograph plate, and I'm really cutting deep in here. There's 2 layers on an Enviro board, which is quite handy. There's sort of very deep layer which scores all the way to the dark board, but there's also a more superficial layer you can peel off, and I will demonstrate that I will use both layers in my design for different purposes. As you can see, I'm just scoring into all the lines because I want them to come up really deep, and in that really large area you can see I'm going to fill it with Carborandum to make sure that it's very dark. After I finish my plate, I will seal it with shellac, which you can buy in any art shop or printmaking store. It's a great way of preserving the plate, especially if you apply Carborandum. As I've just finished doing the lines, and I'm just cutting out around the little stones, and as you can see I'm now peeling off the top layer, so a little bit shallower, just peeling off the shiny bit of the board. But as I've cut around the stones still left, as you can see here, a little bit better with the shiny part of the board. So now you might ask, why am I applying glue to all the bits that I've peeled off? Well, it's the reason why I'm doing that is because I want that sort of lovely effect of having darker edges around all my areas, and this is how I'm hoping to achieve it, sort of an even texture. So you can see here I'm now applying glue. Now it's dried. All my other bits are dried. I'm applying glue and putting Carborandum, pouring Carborandum on top of it, which has got a texture of fine sand. And as it dries, shaking it off. It's just quite satisfying part of doing my preparation. And this is excellent at trapping ink. And here, I'm not sure if you can see very well, I'm drawing on top of a Perspex sheet which is lying on top of my design, and this is with a permanent marker, so I can see where everything is when I apply ink to my monoprint. And now they're here lying side by side. I'm wetting my paper, and here I'm just showing you the marks, my registration on the printing press where I'm going to put my plate and where the paper's going to go. And here, after I've just mixed my inks, I'm applying the colours, and this is why it's really useful to know where everything in my design is, where all my marks are with the permanent marker. The permanent marker does unfortunately go away after a while, but it's just there for at least a couple of runs. And I mixed my ink with a bit of linseed oil to loosen it up so it's not as difficult to apply. And as I explained at the beginning, I'm going to just blot it with newsprint, so it takes that takes a little bit of ink off. And And now this is my Collograph part, what is just sepia ink, and I've just applied the ink and now I'm just wiping it off. As I only want the dark engraved parts to print. But as you can see, because I've peeled off the card, only the shiny card that I've got left on the stones has come through, and all the glue parts are nice and shiny, which is what I wanted. So I'm finally putting my Monoprint plate onto my registration sheet on the press, and I find it really useful using just bits of newspaper in corners, just to help with placing the plate on the newsprint. And I'm just adjusting my press. I'm not having it maybe as tight as for Collograph, but still tight enough, as I actually took a bit of a layer of ink anyway with newsprint, as you remember. So it's still pretty tight, but not as tight as I normally would have it. So I'm just putting it through. And just revealing the print. Print, as you can see, is still trapped in the press. Excuse a wobbly camera. Still trapped in the press, so it's in exactly the same position. So when I put my Collograph plate, it should print in exactly the same places as I've registered. Again, sorry about the wobbly camera. Here we go. I've just ripped a little bit of paper, as you can see, but it's looking pretty good. I'm very pleased with it. However, I do want to run another one, and this time what I'm going to do is I'm not going to press newsprint on top of the inked up monoprint plate to take a little bit of ink off. I'm going to just put it through the press on a slightly looser setting and see if how the ink is coming through, if it's going to have slightly more bolder colors perhaps. I just want to experiment with the monoprint technique, really. Collograph will be printed just the same as it was in a previous print, but I want to see what it will look like. Also, my ink is perhaps a little bit looser as well this time. I just really want it to have it easier with applying it. Previously I've had a little bit of stickiness at the bottom part of the design, so I just wanted to avoid that. And in this part, as you can see, I wanted to have some more painterly marks, and just wanted to see some brush strokes as well. So I'm applying ink in that area in a bit of a looser fashion, just to see if I can have a bit of interest in that area. And unfortunately, what will happen is, you see that top part has got quite a lot of ink in it and quite a lot of loose ink, and as you will see when I run it through the press, it will actually leak. But it was a good lesson to learn, to see that perhaps I should have blotted it with a bit of newsprint, and that might have helped it. But this is why it's so good to do several different runs and to do things differently, because you always learn from every print you make, and doing things differently will help you learn. And here's my second run. and as you will see, I'm running it through the press a lot lighter setting, so it's not as hard as last time. However, the ink unfortunately it was too loose and too much of it perhaps, so yeah, it leaked. Not great look, but it's all right. I won't do it next time. That's the main thing. It's important to learn these lessons. However, I pursued with the rest of the print and the final product wasn't too bad actually. It looked all right. So I'm going to keep it, and I did actually do the third run as I showed you in my intro, but I didn't film it as the process was very similar. Thank you so much for watching the video.